Hi, I'm Janice.
Hello, my name is Tammy.
Good morning. I am Michelle Jones.
Hi, my name is Roberta.
Hello, my name is Michelle Norman.
Good morning. Okay. Welcome to Kinship Care Summit 2025, Lessons from Heart and Home, brought to you by the Pennsylvania Department of Human Services and Office of Children, Youth, and Families, and PA Kin Connector. My name is Tia Maria Smith, Program Director for PA Kin Connector, and I'm honored to serve as your MC for the day. I'm joined by my colleague Candy Ray, Program Coordinator for PA Kin Connector, who will serve as our co-MC. Kinship Care touches every community. It spans all races, all incomes, and all social backgrounds. It's present not only here in Pennsylvania, but across the country. While the needs of families may differ, the goal is always the same: the love, safety, and well-being of the children. Today, we're sharing the stories of kinship families in Pennsylvania as part of celebrating kinship caregivers, the grandparents, aunts, uncles, siblings, and close friends who have stepped up to give children the love, safety, and stability they need to thrive. You'll hear powerful video stories from kinship caregivers, followed by conversations with the families themselves, and a panel of experts. Our goal is that you leave today feeling heard, supported, and inspired. And as part of today's celebration, we have the honor of sharing an important recognition from the highest level of our Commonwealth. On August 19, 2025, Governor Josh Shapiro issued a proclamation declaring September 2025 as Kinship Care Month in Pennsylvania. In his words, "I call on all Pennsylvanians to celebrate and support our Commonwealth's kinship caregiver and to recognize their sacrifices and invaluable contributions." This proclamation reflects the very purpose of our gathering today: to lift up kinship families, honor their experiences, and celebrate their vital roles in our communities. Yes, thank you. So before we get started, I'll turn it over to Candy for some quick housekeeping information. Candy?
Thank you, Tia Maria. And welcome, everyone. Just a few notes. There is water, tea, coffee, and soda out in the lobby area for your convenience, and that will be available all day. Restrooms are located just outside the lobby to the right near the registration area where you came in. And there are resource tables set up in the lobby, so please visit those during your lunch and breaks. And we ask that you please keep your phones on silent. If you need assistance at any point, please grab one of us with the volunteer badges or staff member, and we will be happy to help you. And on the screen, you will see a QR code. If you scan that right now, you will be able to access our full program, which includes the event schedule and bios of the families and resources.
Now my pleasure to introduce Laval Miller-Wilson, Deputy Secretary of the Office of Children, Youth, and Families. Deputy Secretary Miller-Wilson is a true advocate for children and families across Pennsylvania and has been a driving force behind many of the initiatives that support and improve the lives of kinship families today. We're fortunate to have him with us. Welcome everyone to the Kinship Summit. Welcome, Deputy Secretary Miller-Wilson.
Well, good morning. Very happy to be here. Thank you, Tia Maria. Welcome everyone to the second annual Kinship Care Summit, brought to you by the Department of Human Services. Also, we have other departments. The Department of Aging is with us as well and a strong collaborator. I'm Laval Miller-Wilson. I have the privilege of serving as Deputy Secretary for the Office of Children, Youth, and Families in our Department of Human Services, led by Secretary Valerie Arkush. I want to thank folks for coming and joining us today, those in person and those that are online. As Tia Marie noted, we're celebrating National Kinship Care Month, recognizing people who care for children in lieu of parental care, grandparents, aunts, uncles, family, friends, the professionals that support them, and also to experience a day in the life of kinship families through the lessons of the heart and home. I want to recognize and thank many individuals from the department that are here, as well as Pennsylvania Kin Care Connect, including especially members of the Kinship Navigator Advisory Committee, who play a vital role in the operation of our Kinship Navigator program. And I want to extend a special thanks, and we'll be saying this again and again, but it's well-deserved, is to the kinship families sharing their stories and all the kinship families that are here today. This gathering is not a typical conference, and I go to a lot of conferences. There's conferences at the Hilton and Crowne Plaza. They just occur all the time. But this one's filled with curious people, supportive people, generous people that are interested in hearing stories that are hope and having discussions that we hope are going to positively influence how we, both as individuals and as a system, can better support kinship families. It's rooted in lived experience. That's why these conferences are so different. And they lead to transformation. And I'll speak more of that in a moment. Let me start with just noting how much we recognize and emphasize and are just frankly aware of national and statewide data related to children being raised by their relatives and kin who aren't involved in the child welfare system. This is referred to as informal kinship care. And the number of children being raised by relatives or kin without the support of the child welfare system is significant. According to the U.S. Census, about 2.5 million children are being raised by relatives or kin, regardless as to whether that's part of the child welfare system or not. And in Pennsylvania alone, we have 200,000 children who are living with kinship caregivers. And in a relatively recent report from 2024 by Generations United, they estimated that for every one child in foster care with kin, there are 10 being raised by kin outside the foster care system. We recognize that while many families provide care for relative children without the child welfare system, we also recognize that such families have difficulty locating, accessing services and supports needed to adequately provide for the children in their care. So one of the transformational issues that I'm listening for, and I'm staying the full day to hear the stories, to learn, to grow, because honestly, I don't know everything. I lead a department whose ears are open, eyes are open. We're trying to understand the policies and practices that will just make things a little bit easier for families. And we're inviting you to share that, to say, this is the kind of help we need from government officials, whether that's at the state level, at the county level. Just how do things become a little easier for you? We know that the programs that are working, which is PA Kin Connector program, are doing a terrific job serving formal and informal kinship caregivers across the state. And the Department of Human Services remains committed to building the programs and the infrastructure for sustainability and growth. One of the things, given our responsibility, my responsibility of supervising the foster care system, the child welfare system, is, as I noted before, with that system, how can that county system help families? Just making it easier when families become involved. We're not trying to have the foster care system always involved, but when it is, how can it be made easier? I'm a lawyer. I don't practice as much now that I'm with state government. But one of the lawsuits that I brought in the 90s was challenging county children youth agencies to just make sure that kinship care families aren't put in a vulnerable position in which their young children were thrust on them without resources. And sometimes we find situations like that where we just need to have families aware and families supported. A couple years ago, the federal government in 23 released a final rule on separate licensing standards for relative and kinship foster family homes. Our office has been looking at that rule and are really on the eve of developing and releasing, with our partners in the General Assembly, a legislative amendment that will allow more for support for kinship care families. I don't have the time to necessarily go to what those details are, but the goal and the transformation is about supporting families that are in the child welfare system or that choose not to be in the child welfare system but need the support. We know that efforts are only as good as their reach. That's why today matters. The more we hear from you, the more informed and responsive our policies can be. I hope all of you are looking forward to hear from the individuals with lived experience, as well as staff from the Department of Aging and our experts who are participating in today's summit. Again, thanks for all the speakers and the professionals in attendance, and for your support of children and families. And again, more importantly, to the kinship caregivers and families present, thank you for your tremendous love and commitment to the children in your care. I'm humbled to be here with you all today and look forward to listening and walking beside you throughout the day. I encourage you to participate fully today, not just as attendees, but as partners, sharing your stories, asking questions, making bold suggestions. You're not guests in the system. You're architects, co-architects of the future we are building. Again, welcome to our 2025 Kinship Care Summit, and I hope you enjoy the day.
Thank you, Deputy Laval Miller-Wilson, for that opening. So now on to the main event. Our first chapter, Grandparents Rising, Stability in the Storm of Addiction, highlights two families and the two different ways addiction can impact kinship care. First, you'll hear from Janice Scheinberger, who shares her story of stepping into care while supporting her daughter through recovery. Then we'll hear from Tammy Leslie, whose journey began with profound loss when her daughter passed away, leaving her and her husband to raise their two grandsons. Let's watch their stories.
I wasn't aware that she was using. That was just horrible. It was very traumatic on the kids. My husband was just so obsessed with getting her fixed.
It was pure hell. I'd be running out at night chasing her down, figuring out where she was at. And all the local cops basically knew me by name.
I kept thinking, she is going to die. My daughter got pregnant at 22. She was living here. She was in school. And I wanted to introduce my grandson, Wyatt.
Hi.
Wyatt is 13, soon to be 14.
Gotta stop.
He just can't stop laughing.
I just read it.
She did end up moving out when he was 3.5. Then next thing you know, she got pregnant with another man and had her daughter. This is my granddaughter, Charlotte.
Hi.
She's 10 years old now. And Charlotte has been living with us since she was, how old?
4, I think.
Bought a house not too far from us, so I was very involved because they both worked. I just noticed the kids were not happy to go home. Please don't let us go. Don't leave us here. Don't leave us here. So I tried to tell my daughter that something's not right in this house. Charlotte's dad moved out, and I noticed her really spiraling downhill because she felt like, here I am, a young girl, I have 2 kids with 2 different dads, and she really beat herself up. How about when we first moved you guys in? How was that? Can you remember back?
It was different.
Charlotte thought that maybe her mom abandoned her.
They didn't understand why, after so long, why wasn't mom coming back around? And once in a while, my daughter would pop in the midst of her addiction and just mess everything up, where I wouldn't go near her because I had to stay healthy for these kids, and mentally I couldn't be around her. After a while, I took all of the pictures of her off my wall because I couldn't even think about it. I couldn't think of her. I kept thinking she was going to die. Horrible to watch what happened with my husband and I. We argued a lot, we fought a lot. My husband was on a fishing trip with our sons, and he was pretty upset when he got home because I allowed her to move back in. So she was using 5 months while living here, not knowing, where are you going? Are you using? It's hard, not trusting her. I never trust her at all. It's Janice and Charlotte.
Hi.
We drove to the airport to pick up my great niece, coming to spend a little bit of time with us. Now, Angelina is her name, and she is 19. And she actually was raised by her grandmother.
When she usually comes, she feels like my sister.
Yes, she does. And oddly enough, we had Angelina when she was 3 weeks old, and I had her for 3.5 years while her mother was in addiction. And sadly enough, we did lose her mother, which was my niece. Oh my gosh! There's Angelina!
We probably got 4 years now. So, things are much better. And Danielle does live here. She's going back, she's almost done nursing school again.
I am super proud of her. I know she's worked hard at getting sober because it doesn't come easy. I'm very grateful that she's here and she's alive and she's here with her kids. It's very hard, all of us living together. And I worry, is it confusing the kids? The kids like to come to me, and she wants them to come to her. We did some family therapy. We were just trying to get the kids to maybe get more involved with their mom. The counselor was like, she told Charlotte, she said, no, you can't, it's not your grandmother's job, it's your mom's job. She's like, well, you know what? My mom wasn't there for quite a while. Marm was, so all of a sudden you want to cut Marm out? No, that's not happening.
I think it's going to be a tough adjustment for the kids when she does finally get out. And yeah, because they kind of consider this place their home right now. So I think that adjustment's going to be tough on her.
So when we were on vacation, Charlotte was saying, hey, Wyatt, do you think Mom misses us? And he's like, nah, I don't think so. And Charlotte goes, well, yeah, I think you're right. When she's doing good, I feel very trustworthy. But when she gets in these moods where, she's kind of isolating herself and not wanting to do stuff with the kids, I get worried that what could happen? Could she pick up and use again? Because I'm afraid she could just up and leave with the kids, not trusting her fully yet. I think I worry too much about leaving the kids with their mother, even though they're getting older. And my husband calls it control issues.
We're supposed to be grandparents. I mean, we're supposed to be the ones that spoil them. And that didn't happen because I basically became the parent. So we really got to miss out on being grandparents.
This whole, process we're in has taken away from my other kids. I just don't spend enough time with them or the other grandkids. And I feel bad about that. I have a granddaughter that lives very close and we don't see her much.
We were just getting to the point where we were like empty nesters, and we've lost all that time.
My husband and I had this great marriage where people were jealous of it. They used to say that to us. And I feel like we're still distant. I don't like that.
It did put a lot of stress on her marriage, though, and it continues to put stress on her marriage. I mean, there's a lot of times we want to go out and do things and stuff, and it's always relying upon the kids.
She does want custody back, and I get that, but I feel she's getting there, but she's not ready. I know they love her, but I want them to feel safe and secure with her and be able to, live a full life of trust and not have any more trauma. And she right now is in a very, very good routine. I love it. She's getting up really early. She goes outside. Horses are very therapeutic for her. She had horses her whole life. She sticks with it because I see her attitude's better, everything. She's just joyful.
Oh, hi. I recognize you from your photo. I'm Tammy. I'm so sorry I'm late.
Yeah, that says very beautiful daughter. I love it. She always put a heart with her, her signatures. They put that on, they copied it and put it on. And I'm gonna get the giraffes touched up.
She loved giraffes. So that was in her apartment when she died. And I have giraffes all over my room.
Yep, that's her actual thumbprint, which I thought was so cool.
She died of fentanyl overdose. That was I did like how that looked. My story? Well, when Christina died, we were all home. Even her boys were home at my house. Everybody was home. And then when the police came to the door and everything, it was just so traumatic when they came and gave us the news. And so I didn't just sit around and crawl into bed and never come out because, oh, trust me when I tell you, I wanted to. I would have given anything at all to crawl into bed and never come out again because I couldn't deal with my, I went back to work 2 weeks later. I couldn't deal with what I was going through because I had to worry about the boys. Christina, my angel in heaven, is Caden and Colton's mom.
From the day that you were born, you had my heart. You blessed my life in every way.
There we go. Oh, you start coloring, Mommy.
I started coloring her
horse. She used to ride, Christina. Look at that.
Yeah, because isn't that amazing? I was
It's
doing
Christina.
at least off of this. I think I got pretty good. Got pretty good. Let me see with the horse.
She made this, actually, this frame. She died almost 5 years ago. It's almost her 5-year anniversary on June 11th. So it's coming up. And that's going to be a really, really hard day for me. Oh, Mommy's ashes are way up there.
Yeah, all
that
the way
little
away.
white thing that says Mommy up there.
And then we got
And Daddy's ashes are in this
right here.
Here. Dad, sadly, died 2 years prior to Christina of an overdose. Since Christina died, I always put them in lots of therapy, always talking about their mom, and I love my grandsons just like my children. And I'm so blessed to have them in my life. And I'm so thankful that Christina had 2 little boys because they pretty much saved me. Oh, well, that's the logo from the Christina's Legacy Saving Lives that I started for her. So I made it my mission to do all this because I knew I wanted to help other people not go through the same pain I was living day in and day out. And actually, a lot of that time is usually when I see the boys missing their mommy, or I see the boys doing something really special in their life, and I think, God, Christina's missing this beautiful moment with her boys. She doesn't have a lot of stuff from Daddy. Neither one of them have much.
What are you talking about?
You don't have a whole lot from your dad.
Yes, I do.
Like what? It's very, very, very challenging having 2 children. How are you? Looking good there, little Spiffy. I am doing good. And to have to raise kids again, I'm tired. I am freaking tired all the time. In your room right now. Now. I'm getting Grampy involved.
Because I said so. Grampy was nice.
It is.
She can act like a lot of ways, and she can be nice, but she can also be mean.
And we're the mean grandmom, mean grandparents. You know, sports again, and teenage years again. You're on video. Say hello. Because things are really, really tight with my husband working full-time, only him, and with us raising the kids again, it's really, really costly because they're getting older. And it would be really nice if these government officials could really consider this and think about, us. So when I say like, oh my God, there's so much work, they drive me crazy, blah, 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 I'm just saying that. I mean, well, they are a lot of work and they do drive me crazy and I am exhausted. So we really suck. Well, today's Christina's anniversary. Sometimes I don't feel a connection with her. And like if I go too long of not feeling a connection, I feel like I have to.
And I constantly look up to the sky all the time. I'm surprised I haven't gotten in an accident yet. I'm always looking up to the sky at clouds, like big puffy clouds in the sky, like really good ones. So specifically put it there for me. She knows when I need her and I need to connect with her, and she just knows.
There's a lot of sacrifice leading to my freedom in this moment.
We took custody of these guys. We got guardianship of them right after Christina died. And so Colton likes to call me Mom. And I'm fine with that.
Can I see a turning point in the light? Can I see it coming?
He can if he wants.
Don't start crying.
I'm not. He can call me Mom. We know where his mommy is. She will always be his mommy.
Can I see a turning point in the light? Can I see it? Can I see it? Yeah.
Christina knows. She knows. We always love Christina.
That's where I go when I can't find me. When I can't find me.
But I'm with him all the time, and I'm raising them, and they need a mommy.
Yeah.
So I can be their mommy. That's fine.
Okay, please welcome Tammy Leslie.
Hello.
Tammy.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna sit. Okay.
All right. So these two stories show how addiction affects families in different ways. For Janice, it meant stepping into care while her daughter sought healing. For Tammy, it meant raising her grandsons while carrying the grief of losing her daughter. Both stories remind us that kinship care is born out of love and resilience. So please, Tammy, can you just give us kind of an overview of what you felt when you were watching the film and what you wanted people to take away?
Sure, thank you. I wrote down some notes.
All right, great.
I had something to tell you. This entire experience has been something I have never been a part of before. My boys think that they're little movie stars, by the way.
They are.
Thank you, James and Samantha. But seriously, it is critically important to me to advocate for all the grandparents out there in Pennsylvania and all over that are now raising their grandchildren, especially as a direct result of their children's substance use disorder, with or without overdose and dying, which, of course, my daughter did tragically die. Often, and this is what Mr. Miller, what was his?
Laval.
I didn't say his last name right, but he hit it on the spot. I literally wanted to get up and start clapping right when he was talking. But what he was saying is absolutely, I kept shaking my head to everything he was saying. Often and increasingly now, these specific set of grandparents are not even going through the CPS and foster care system at all. Therefore, we end up not getting the same benefits or any benefits that they get in the system for their grandchildren in their care. So I just feel like this is not right and needs to change at the state level, and not just in the individual counties across Pennsylvania. I just feel like at the state level, it needs to be changed so that every county all has the same exact, access. So anyway, that's, I think, where it needs to change, that we can get some kind of benefits and some kind of, I feel like financial help would really assist us. But anyway, gigantic thank you to James and Samantha for the time they put in for the making of the video. And for you, for giving me the opportunity and the platform for this. It's pretty amazing. And to my grandchildren to my daughter, because she gave me two beautiful grandchildren. And I know a lot of angel parents, and not every angel parent had a grandchild from their daughter or son that died. So I feel very fortunate that I have an extension of her in them that I get to see every single day. And I love them so much. They're like little mini Christinas. So thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. So we have two wonderful experts on the stage. So I'd like you to introduce yourself, say what you do, and then how you help kinship families.
Hi, my name is Alex Mosdam, and I'm a kinship navigator with Pennsylvania Kin Connector. One of my favorite roles is leading our support group, and we're so thankful to have Tammy, other grandmothers, grandfathers, aunts, and uncles as part of a supportive online community of families that have walked similar paths in life, and they come to find connection.
Thank you. Good morning. I am Dr. Angel Richardson. I am a family therapist. I am also a former kinship caregiver. And I work with families who have had kinship family members living with them, some currently and some in the past. And I'm also a professor working with people who will be counselors and helping them navigate how they will work with families who may be working with kinship care families as well.
Thank you, Alex and Angel. So now I'd like to open the floor to our audience to either ask questions or share reflections with Tammy and our experts. We have two of our navigators in the audience, so if you have a question, please raise your hand and then they will get a mic to you. And we also are streaming today, so if any of our folks on the stream have questions, just put it in the chat and we will try to answer your questions as well. And unfortunately, I really can't see people, so navigators, do you see any hands raised for people with questions?
I have a question.
Okay. Great.
Not really a question. I just wanted to say thank you, Tammy, and for all the kin care folks who shared their stories. It's really important. I've learned a lot just watching the couple of videos I've watched. So thank you so much.
Thanks. Thank you. Okay, Jill, do you have one question?
Sure. One of the questions we have is, what has been one of the most rewarding parts of stepping into your role as a mom again for your grandson?
I actually wrote some notes down in case I got a question that I came prepared.
We like that.
Even though I could answer this because it comes from the heart, but their mom was a gift from God, put on this earth and given to me to help other people, even if it was only for a short time. She loved so much. She fought for others when she thought she couldn't, and she endured so much pain. She touched so many people's lives, but none more important or more special than her two boys. They were her everything, her light in the darkness. She wanted to live for them so much, and she tried so hard for them. I believe she knew and felt comfort in knowing how much I loved them and would do anything for them. And I really, truly, even though when she was alive, we fought all the time, and there was a lot of tension and anger when she was alive, and she would say things that I know she didn't mean, but I do know that deep down that she trusted me and knew that they were in good hands. So I feel her every day, her presence, and I hope that I know that she's proud of me for what I'm doing with them every day. And I really hope and pray that her boys know that she loves them so much, and that I love them so much. I'm like working kind of through her for them. So,
okay. Thank you, Tammy. So, Angel, since you're a family therapist, what sort of reflections or thoughts did you have after watching Tammy's video?
So I think one of the things that really stood out to me was how Tammy's able to hold so many things. And I think one of the things we lose sight of often is how multiple things can be true, right? So the way Tammy was able to say how she's exhausted and she's tired and, she can be frustrated, and how much she loves her children, her grandsons and her daughter, right? And I think one of the things that is so challenging when you are a kinship caregiver is that you're holding all of these things and they're all true at the same time. And it's really hard when you don't have the support, as Tammy was saying, right? The financial support is not always there. The family support is not always there. She talked about the stress in her marriage, right? How friends used to say, you have this marriage that we envy, and people don't always recognize that, hey, we're having stress in our marriage now. And so those were things that were showing up. And what it then says is there's this greater need for support that people don't always recognize, because often people are like, you're such a great person. Oh my goodness, look at what you're doing. But they're not always stepping up and saying, how can I help you? And so that really stood out to me, because it's really important that there are organizations like PA Can Connector that show up and say, let's give you support. Let's give you a community. Let's assist you in this way. But it's also important, like Tammy was saying, that there is financial support on a state level and all these other ways to assist in the ways that families really need them.
Great, thank you. Candy, do we have any questions from the chat? Okay. Do we have any questions from the audience yet? Don't be shy.
I have another question, Tia Maria.
Okay.
What message would you want Caden and Colton to carry with them about their mother and about the love you've shown them through this transition?
I would just want them to know that their mom loved them so much, and she would be here if she could, and she wanted to be here. But she was meant just to be here for 25 years. And it was nothing that they did. And I feel like, I hope that they know how lucky they are that they have their grandparents to raise them. And they're not in the system. And they didn't have to go through the system. Because there's tons of kids that have to go through the system. And there's tons of kids that don't have family and relatives to raise them. So they're lucky in that way. And they have all of they have the very close, extended big family around too, to support them. Christina had 3 brothers. I have 3 boys. So they have 3 uncles that love them very much. And, I will be there for them. My husband will be for them. And Caden and Colton, I will be there for you guys for every breath that I have until the day I die. I will be there for you guys.
Thank you, Tammy. So, Alex, as a kinship navigator, what are your thoughts about Tammy's video?
Sure. One of the things that really stood out to me, especially as a support group leader, was just how much love these families have. Whether it was Janice or Tammy and everyone here in attendance, you just see that even when tragedies happen, families don't stop loving. That the grandmothers, the grandfathers, aunts and uncles, they maintain that connection, that love. And as Dr. Crumbly would say, kinship families, there's this multi-generational pattern or system that develops. And so as I watched Tammy's video, what stood out to me were the clouds. And I thought, what's the silver lining? And what I saw in Tammy's heart, in Janice's heart, and maybe in your heart, is that love doesn't stop when we lose a loved one. Now, there's no words that we can say to replace the loss, but on the other hand, Tammy is able to continue loving her daughter by loving her grandchildren. You know, Tammy, you talked about your faith. The Bible teaches that when you love children, it's as if you're loving the father in the family. And so I see a story of resilience, a story of love, a story of how you can still stay connected to Christina by loving her children. And I can imagine that brings a lot of pride and gratitude. So well done.
Thank you, Alex. You're making me tear up. Lisa, do you have any questions for our expert?
Yes, Angel, what have you seen in your clients to be how have they gotten through these things? Like, what is your advice to folks if something happened in their life like this?
So I think one of the things that's really important, and it's one of the things that Tammy has done, is this way of making meaning, right? And I think that sometimes gets mixed up with this idea of being like, everything happens for a reason. And you'll have people that are like, absolutely, like my family, how would you say that to me? Like, don't make meaning out of this. But when people are able to make meaning, like Tammy has done by saying, like, I have this foundation, or I'm going to advocate so that this doesn't happen to somebody else, or I'm going to invest in the children who are with me so that they have a better future, even if their parents are struggling. That has really helped families come together and do better, right? Because this ability to say, okay, I now can make meaning out of this by supporting the children that I am raising. I'm now able to make sure that their future looks better. That really has helped, and it has really put them in a space where even though things are hard, even though I'm really frustrated, I know that I'm making meaning. I know that I'm helping. I know that I have purpose, and it really does assist, I'll say, just about every family that I've worked with in pushing through and feeling like, okay, this is not for nothing.
Okay, thank you. And Candy, I'm checking again with the chat. Nothing. Okay. And then anyone in the audience here, do you have any questions or again reflections? Just things you want to share?
I got one.
Oh, okay.
This is Laval. Tammy, you recognize my voice. One of the hard things about that beautiful video was the contrast between you losing your daughter and the other family having their daughter still. And I wonder if the panel, maybe starting with the therapists, dealing with that question of the first family whose daughter is still in and out, and the challenges that families have to navigate. Tammy didn't navigate that situation, feels the loss. But the first family's navigating those emotions, so are the children. Could you speak to that?
I'll start off. So, great question. I think one of the first things to acknowledge is that in that situation, each family went through their own loss. It might have looked different, but they wrestled with these big emotions, you know, the grief of losing safety in the family, the grief of permanency changing, maybe the grief of role changes, you know, grandparents having to stop being the fun ones and be the disciplinarians, the caregivers again. And so while even though their paths were different, there are a lot of similarities in the grieving process. You know, maybe you felt angry. Maybe there were times where you're overcome by sadness and just wishing you could say things. And I know that's different when a child is no longer living versus maybe is wrestling with an addiction. But honestly, from the families that we've talked to that have had children that continue to wrestle with their addiction, there is a lot of anticipatory grief. They wonder, are my son and daughter still okay? Would this be their last day? How can I be there for them without enabling? Versus for Tammy, I can imagine there were moments when you thought, if Christina were here, what would I have liked to say for them? Now, that being said, both families, they also care for the children. So they're stepping into the role of providing, protecting, keeping the children safe. And when parents are struggling with addiction, they have to make some really hard choices. The children's needs come first. And sometimes that means keeping the parents away so they can keep the children safe. Now, when a parent passes away, that might not be obviously a concern, but there are concerns about the children's mental health and well-being. And I'd love to hear from Dr. Angel. What would you recommend that families could do to love the children and help them heal?
Thank you, Alex. Wonderful answer. And to your point, I think one of the things that, especially when we're talking about grief, and we're talking about addiction, one of the things that is really important is how do we talk about these things with children? And one of the things I always advocate for is telling the children the truth in a way that is age appropriate. Because you can always build upon the truth. Especially when we have a parent who has passed away. You as the caregiver are their only line to that parent. When we have parents who are wrestling with addiction, you still are that line, even if the parent is coming back and forth, but you are the one that they are coming to. So it is important that we are telling the children the truth, but we still need to do it in an age-appropriate way. If we're talking to children and we are trying to use euphemisms, or we're trying to glaze over the truth, or we're trying to give them this rainbow, someone at some point is going to tell them the truth. And one of the things I love to say is little people, but big ears. And unfortunately, when they do hear the truth and you haven't necessarily been honest, that trust is going to be broken. And it is extremely hard to rebuild it, especially when we're talking about issues with addiction or we're talking about issues where someone has passed away. And so if we start the healing at the beginning with honesty, we just keep building on it, right? And so I think when we go back to this idea of, okay, yes, maybe I have my child or my grandchildren because my child passed away, or I have a child or grandchild where this child may be in and out. Part of it is this idea of boundaries. And again, it's not comfortable. There are these challenging and difficult conversations. But when I can be honest and I can talk to children around, I care about you, I love you, right? It may not be safe for you to be in this other space. And I don't necessarily have to get into why it is so unsafe, but I'm letting you know that I'm keeping you safe. Then I'm in this space where I'm being honest, and I recognize that regardless of what I'm going through with my own child, this is really hard, right? And so one of the things I also want to say to families is we don't have to compare pain, because pain is pain. My pain is my pain. Your pain is your pain, right? And we don't have to compare pain. We don't have to compare trauma. What we do have to do when we're working with all of our families is recognize that we're all in pain. we're all enduring these things. And so then can we come together in this common space and say, I want to be here to support you. I want to be here for you. And I want to recognize that this is hard and we're doing this regardless of what the loss is.
Thank you so much for that answer. Sure, but it's got to be quick.
Thank you. I just wanted to add on that, and Christina, when she died, but she did go through everything that Janice is going through prior. So I did go through all the addiction where she was in and out and all that kind of stuff, which is, yeah. So I did go through all that. So everything you're saying is so true and helpful. And yeah, so thank you for that.
Okay, thank you, Tammy. Okay, so thank you so much for this heartfelt start to our day. I think we all got some really important information. And again, Tammy, thank you for sharing your story. And to our experts, thank you for your expertise.
Gosh, that's such an easy question. I love helping families. I love this position. I love serving the most vulnerable families and children. We get so many calls and contacts every single day, and we take all of them to heart, and we love to listen to stories and see how we can provide resources and a listening ear, and we just do the best that we can to be the best listeners and the best resource providers for our families. So I absolutely love working for Pennsylvania Kin Connector. I could probably talk all day.
Thank you, Jill. But we don't have all day, so next one.
And I'm Laura Goddard. I'm the SNAP Outreach Manager at the Central Pennsylvania Food Bank. We cover the center part of the state from the New York border down to the Maryland border, 27 counties. And we are part of a greater network called Feeding Pennsylvania. So for anyone who's not from Central Pennsylvania here today or online, you can go to feedingpa.org and find your local regional food bank. So we have partner agencies like food pantries and meal programs that help families that in need of emergency food or monthly food get supplemental food through them. But we also have programs like my team. We help families get connected to SNAP food stamps, sometimes are still called that. We help people apply for that and get enrolled for the program and also get connected to other benefits like WIC. And school meals, Sunbucks, answer a lot of questions. We also have youth programs at schools or after school programs, daycares, and also a senior food box program that we administer, and military share for anyone who's has a family with a veteran or an active military member in reserves or National Guard. So we offer a lot of different resources to cover all families with different needs and to help you meet those needs that you have. Nutrition, dietary restrictions, cultural familiar foods. So yeah, I would just say we have a table out there. Come out and grab some information, and happy to help with any of your food and nutrition needs.
Thanks, Laura.
Hello, my name is Michelle Kuntz. I'm a post-permanency technical assistant through the statewide adoption and permanency network. So we cover the entire state of Pennsylvania, and we help families who have kinship families who have achieved permanency through the foster care system. So they have Laval had talked about informal, and we primarily work with formal kinship care at this time. And we help to connect them with resources such as support groups and case advocacy, which helps to link them to therapy or other resources that they may need, and just different supports that the family may need. So I will let Charity talk since she is my colleague.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Charity Brawlier, and I'm also a SWAN post-permanency technical assistant. And I actually also have the pleasure of answering calls that come into the Swan Warm Line. So I've talked to lots of different kinship parents and grandparents, aunts, uncles, when they're really, struggling with trying to find the resources that they need. Sometimes they say, we talked with Kin Connector and they said, we should call you. So, and it's really difficult because we only serve formal kinship families, when we have to sort of say, because of the way these services are funded, you wouldn't be eligible. Because I know how much the department, I've been with SON for 16 years and I've been working in child welfare for 25 years. And I know how much that we recognize and the department recognize that children belong with their families whenever it's possible. And so I do have phone a friend in the audience. If anyone has additional questions about the sort of the differences in terms of funding and why informal kinship families aren't eligible for post-permanency services. But it's a pleasure to be with all of you today. So thank you for having me.
Maybe this one's for the experts.
Great.
What would you recommend as helpful first steps for a family? I know it can be overwhelming, and when kids first come into care, how can each of your agencies help?
It's my turn. So for formal kinship families, they're able to call the SWAN helpline and ask for post-permanency services. Respite is a wonderful service that is offered that can give parents a much needed break, a chance to really, relax, rest, recharge so that they can come back to parenting with a, new sense of, I can do this. I will have to say, Roberta, and to every other kinship grandparent, I have a grandson. I'm worn out within an hour. So I have a newfound just sense of, I don't know how you do it, but I'm sure glad that you do. So.
Laura, do you want to say something?
Yeah, so I would just encourage everyone to reach out to their regional food bank. We do more than food banking these days. So like my team, for instance, helps families see if they might be eligible for SNAP. There's a lot of different intricacies of the program, and our team knows a lot of those policies and those intricacies, and we can help you navigate that. And if you're not eligible for SNAP, or in addition to SNAP, there's so many other resources out there that we really work hard to make sure we know what those resources are and can help you get connected to those. So I would just say, don't think of us just as a food bank. I mean, of course we can help with food and like a box of food that can help supplement your groceries, but there's so much more that we can help with. And you might be surprised what some of the eligibility criteria are for families, different circumstances. So please don't shy away and reach out to us sooner than later.
I was just going to recommend that you complete the Compass application to see if you qualify for the Child Only TANF grant, as well as the SNAP benefits. One of the other recommendations I would have is to contact your local area of aging to see if you qualify for the Caregiver Support Program. That's a wonderful program that the state of Pennsylvania offers to caregivers who are 55 and older. I believe that's the age. So I know that the financial burden is huge on many families, and so that would be first and foremost. I would always encourage you to apply for Child Only TANF. Just like to add, when on the subject of support groups and your support, I will say that the stigmatism of being alone and walking this journey alone is real. And so find your people and let them love you hard and let them wrap their hands around you. Even in many years as I was a caseworker, at the end of the day, we go home. You are always going to be family. And so in 10 or 20 years from now, you are still going to be walking this journey. So find your support groups, allow the schools to get involved if they're willing to. Call Pennsylvania Kin Connector. We're listening always. If your neighbor's willing to listen to you, you can't have too much love. So just let as many people in as you feel comfortable and let them and allow them to wrap their arms around you, give you a meal, give you a hug. It's so important.
So there's different options. Adoption is the most permanent, adoption and reunification. But there's also PLC, which is permanent legal custodianship. And so that's the next step below adoption. So that's, I believe the parents' rights don't have to be terminated in order to have permanent legal custodianship. So, so that's why it's considered less permanent. And then that's pretty much it. Those are the main permanency options. So we will service families who have provided permanency through PLC as well as adoption. And so post-permanency services are available for those families for youth until they turn 18, or if they achieve permanency after age 13, then the benefits extend to 21.
Okay. So I don't know if you guys know the answer to this question. And if you tell us, we'll be getting a scoop. But when they're looking at changing the regulations for informal caregivers, are they going to also extend to like what permanency options are available and services that SWAN can provide for informal kinship families?
Tia Marie, I'm going to phone a friend that's in the audience that can talk a little bit more about that. If she's still here and she doesn't mind. Carrie, are you here?
Okay. Can you get her the mic? Thanks, Lisa. Yeah. Hi, Carrie. I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No problem, Tia Maria. Can you repeat your question, though, please?
Oh, well, my question was, Deputy Secretary Laval Miller said that you're going to be changing the guidelines for kinship caregivers for informal versus formal. So I'm wondering if any of those guidelines are going to extend to permanency, and will SWAN folks be able to service informal kinship caregivers?
So what Secretary Miller was speaking about was, oh my gosh, this echo is amazing.
I know.
The final rule that was passed by the federal government related to separate licensing standards for relative and kinship families. Those separate licensing standards in that final rule have allowed states to consider having licensing standards that are separate and apart from our normal formal licensing process for foster parents. So in the state of Pennsylvania, as it stands now, can you guys hear me without this? Thank goodness. Oh, online they can't. Oh, it's really hard to talk. I apologize. But in the state of Pennsylvania right now, in order to be a formal foster family, you have to go through the formal procedures and processes. In the state of Pennsylvania, the department fully recognizes that there's a lot of steps and processes to become licensed in the state. The department supports developing separate licensing standards for relatives and kid. And what it is really looking at is streamlining those processes to make it less cumbersome for relatives and kin to become licensed foster families, which in the state of Pennsylvania would be still considered formal kinship families. Now, as it relates to SWAN is the Statewide Adoption and Permanency Network has been a program in existence since 1992. In 2003, we implemented post-permanency services in which Charity and they were talking about. Right now, the SWAN program only serves adoptive families for post-perm. who, whether or not they've adopted from the child welfare system, internationally or privately, may receive SWAN post-permanent services. In addition to that, our formal kinship families and permanent legal custodianship families who have provided that permanency for children in the foster care system can receive post-perm. So, informal families may not receive SWAN post-permanency services. But that, I just want to encourage this. Here's this. When separate licensing standards are developed, I feel, because in the state of Pennsylvania, we have a long history in supporting relative and kins when it comes to state policies, procedures, regulations, laws. And so I feel that having separate licensing standards, even though you will be going through that process and become a formal licensed family, you will get SWAN post-permanency. I think we'll see an increase in families willing to acknowledge that, yes, this is a process, but the system can support this, and here's where the system can help. So I believe that we'll see an increase in supporting formal families when the separate licensing standards are in place through the SWAN program, which is good. But the department also supports informal kinship families in addition to formal kinship families, and has shown that support through our I consider it still a baby program, the Pennsylvania Kin Connector, our Kinship Navigator program, which all of these lovely panelists and experts know that the purpose, you know this, Tia Maria, the purpose of the Kinship Navigator program, which is a program supported by the department, is to make those connections for our formal and informal families on the resources and services that are available to them, not only the federal, but the state and local levels. So while I know SWAN does not serving, I do feel that it will increase, and we do have other programs in our other offices and other departments that are invaluable to our informal kinship families.
Great. Thank you. So now we're going into our third story. It wasn't supposed to be permanent, but it is. Comes from Michelle Norman. Michelle and her husband are grandparents raising their granddaughter. What started as a temporary arrangement became a permanent commitment, one filled with sacrifice, struggle, and deep love. Her story reminds us that kinship care often means giving up the role of grandma to become mom.
I'm going to get started for you.
Hi, can I have a salted caramel cream cold brew, a grande? And yes.
Josiah's my first grandchild.
You definitely want to do them all? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My husband and I are raising our granddaughter, Josiah. Our son, he was a guest of the state at the time, and his girlfriend was pregnant.
She was honest with me. She said, I have nothing to offer her as a mom. I'm not mom material. And I respected that.
And that's how I ended up with Josiah.
When my son came home, she was halfway through kindergarten. I thought, okay, by the time she done 5th grade, I kept giving myself these goals. By the time he will have himself together at the latest. Well, that didn't work out.
It wasn't supposed to be a permanent thing, but at this point, 11 years in, it's permanent.
I raised 6 kids, and my youngest was graduating 2018, so I've had her since 2014. I used to talk about, in 2018, I'm gonna be kid-free. It's a lot. I mean, we have highs and lows, but yeah, in the beginning, I'll be honest with you, I was angry. People don't know I'm even her grandma. They think I'm her mom. We love her like she's my daughter, but she's my granddaughter, and that's another thing too. Like, she's my granddaughter, but I don't get to be her grandma because I'm her mom. Yeah, I gave up a lot to do that.
So I am very grateful for living with my grandparents and everything, but it's just different.
As she started to talk, she would say, Mom. And even my son from college, my daughter, and all of it, they were like, she's not your mom. And then I remember her saying, she was like 3 or 4. Well, she's the one that takes care of me, so that's why I call her mom.
Sad sometimes I don't live with my parents because I never really get to experience that fullness of having your mom and your dad and them together.
Her dad kind of co-parents. He's home now. He's been home since she's been 5.
He has a girlfriend. He has another child now, and a stepchild, and it just hasn't worked out.
Like when I go over to my dad's house, since I have siblings, it's a lot different than when I am here. So I'm not their top priority a lot of the time.
I'm his parent, but I'm also her parent. I know he wants to be more, but being, just phone calls, you can't always just parent through a phone call. You have to have the day-to-day, because I'm doing all the work, but yet he wants all the say-so. And I think that's where we battle. And that's sad too, because that was my firstborn. I shouldn't have to battle about raising his child. So that's a loss. But we're working on it. It's so hard. My thing at this point, you're grown, she's not, and my focus has to be her.
So what's the negatives with living with your grandparents?
You guys get cranky sometimes, and sometimes I have to deal with it. But I don't mind it sometimes because I get cranky too.
It's not easy.
You're my oldest grandchild, but you're not my only grandchild. So I notice sometimes, like when your cousins come over, you are kind of like cranky, as you call us.
Because like when I have all those people over and all those siblings over, I'm not used to it because usually just the three of us. And I usually have my own room, privacy with my own space and everything.
And it's not as easy as I may make it seem, because there's some struggles. I had met Debbie Willett along my journey, and she invited me to a grandparent group in Westchester.
In the beginning, she was like the other families, like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm a mess. I'm losing my mind. I don't know what's going on. And it's been so neat watching her grow.
And then from there, she started one for me in Coatesville. Now it has grown. And without that, I don't think, without her constant support, it's a lot, because you're at a different stage in your life.
And I think the greatest thing is she's such an advocate for the other grandparents in the group. They'll say, well, I'm doing this, I can't do this. And she says, yes, you can, you'll get through it, you'll do it. So it's been really neat watching her grow, in that experience. It's been really neat.
It's coming together with other people in the same situation that truly understand what you're going through. And your struggle might not be exactly theirs, but you can sometimes help each other. And then for the kids, it's great because all the kids there are being raised by someone other than their parents, so they don't feel different.
These kids have all been through trauma. If you see a child's being raised by someone other than their parent, the first thing you should think of is trauma.
So do the best that you can, be there for that child. You're gonna make mistakes, we all do. But the one thing about being a grandparent, raising a grandchild, you know what you did when you had your own kids, so you can you grew. You became a better parent. And it does get better. You have lots of fun times. Like, she's been everywhere with us. She's always with us. She's our little sidekick.
Being a grandpa and raising my granddaughter. When it was first proposed to me years ago, when you were a baby and came to live with us, I wasn't thrilled about the idea of raising another kid after raising 6 kids. After you came, and about, I guess, a couple of weeks in, I realized this was where you were supposed to be. Now, I can't imagine life without you at this point.
It's not for the weak, but focus on that innocent child because they didn't ask for this.
Do you like it when people call me your mini-me?
Yeah.
That's good.
Do you like it?
Oh, yeah, I do.
But I have 5 more years, so I'm excited. And I'm never doing this again.
I'm still crying, sorry.
Please welcome Michelle Norman. Michelle's story shows us the reality of kinship care, the sacrifices, the long-term challenges, and the love that's been there all along. Thank you, Michelle, for that wonderful story. I can see you're still tearing up a little bit.
I think I've watched it like 7 times, and every time I cry. I'm sorry.
No problem. It's a beautiful story. And again, we thank you for being such a great kinship caregiver. So when you watch the film, what would you like our audience to leave with today? Like, what's the impression you want them to take away?
From my story?
Yes.
Yes. I would say, yeah, it's about love. It's definitely about love. But it's not easy. It's a lot of sacrifice you give of yourself.
Right.
And as a parent, we all do that. Well, you're supposed to anyway. Obviously, some don't. Hence the grandparent group. But, yeah, it's about love and just do the best. You think of that child. Like, you're going to be angry with your kids and their significant other, but you can't focus on that because you have this innocent child who did not ask for any of it. And that's what you focus on.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I'd like to introduce our panelists, experts today. So can you start with telling us who you are, what you do, and how you help kinship families?
Thank you for having me. I'm Rachel Thiessen. I'm a legal training specialist for Voce under the SWAN contract. So what I do is legal trainings across the state for all kinds of different professionals and sometimes for families on anything law and child welfare related. We also answer questions that come into SWAN's warm line, any questions about child welfare and the law. So we have contact with kinship families through that as well.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kirsten Ritter. I'm with the Bear Foundation. We are a SWAN affiliate agency, which means that we are contracted to do work through the SWAN contract, where we complete services like family profiles and other units of service that are used to help children get through the permanency system. We work with about half of the families that we work with are kinship families. We also have a foster care program, and they work a lot with the kinship families, helping to guide them through the system, helping them to work with children and youth, and also to deal with all those various different emotions that they experience trying to co-parent a child that came into their home unexpectedly.
Great. Okay, thank you. So, Michelle, when did you realize that taking care of your granddaughter was going to be permanent?
When I tried to return her for the second time. Yes, I did try to, well, all right, let's start from the beginning. So when I got her, it was supposed to just for the summer. And I had her from May till like August. By Labor Day, I got the phone call that she wanted her to come back. I said, okay, for a year. Get yourself together for the year. And then after that year, I'll return her. Mm-hmm. And I did. And 6 weeks later, it wasn't working. And I took her back. But then I let her go for a visit. They were thinking about maybe keeping her. But I said, if she comes back, this is it.
Okay.
And that's how I got her.
And how old was she when that happened?
And she was before she was 2 when she first came.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great, thanks. All right, so now I'd like to open it up to questions or reflections from the audience. So Lisa and Jill, can you see if there are any questions?
I have a question for the experts. What legal or policy misconceptions most often create confusion for kinship caregivers?
I think one of the things that's really confusing is something that's come up several times today already, the difference between like informal and formal kinship care and the different options that are available to families who are involved with the child welfare system or those who aren't, because they are very similarly situated, right? It's both kin taking in children and giving care for those children, and they all have the same responsibilities and expenses, but there's different opportunities available. So I think that's one of the most confusing legal or policy things that we have is those differences.
Okay.
I was just going to say, I think a lot of kinship parents, when they're going through this, trying to decide if they want to be formal or informal, a lot of them think they can't be formal because of what might be in their past. If they have people, or if they have a history with drug and alcohol issues themselves, mental health issues, criminal issues, a lot of people think that means that they can't be a formal kinship parent, and that's not necessarily true. So when we're working with families, our main thing is to tell families, be honest with us. We would rather know if you have anything we need to look into, but we also do the best we can. We want to make sure the children are staying in their family of origin, and it's important for us to know their history, but it doesn't necessarily disqualify them just because they might have had some things in their past that they've been dealing with. Okay, thank you.
Lisa, do you have any questions for Michelle?
Yes, this question is for Michelle. You mentioned feeling anger at the start of the journey that you took raising your granddaughter. Can you just talk a little bit about that?
Yes. Well, we're a large family. We're a blended family. And I had one in college. My middle son was in college, and I had two middle school and high school. So I was not into diapers, pacifiers, bottles. I had a little bit more freedom. And, my husband and I, we always dated throughout our marriage, but, we had a sidekick. Or just like all of our friends, our kids are around the same age, so they can kind of go, and I couldn't. I'm up here looking for a babysitter and stuff like that. So that makes it difficult. Like, becomes angry because this is not the stage that I want to be at. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So I'd ask the experts, when you saw Michelle's videos, like what kinds of thoughts or reflections did you have about her video?
Well, my thoughts and reflections on the video were more from my personal background than my professional one. Personally, I am myself an adoptee. I was adopted as an infant. It was like a private adoption, and it was a closed adoption. So I didn't know my family of origin growing up. I didn't know anything about them or have any of those connections. And so I was reflecting on Michelle's story and all of the other kinship stories that we saw today about how important it was that family stepped up and kept those connections for those kids. Because I know it was hard for me to grow up without those biological connections. And so that was one of the most impactful things when I saw Michelle's story, is just like seeing how hard it was for her and the things that they went through, but that they put that child first and stepped up, and it makes a big difference.
Yeah, thank you. I think for me, Michelle, the main thing that really struck me was you were honest with the difficulty that you faced parenting both your son and his daughter, and being a grandparent and a parent at the same time. And it sounds like there were some struggles with how you wanted to parent her versus how he wanted to parent her. And we do hear about that a lot. We have a lot of like torn loyalties as to who do I reach out to, or who do I listen to, because he wants to do it this way, but I've been raising her for 4 or 5, 12 years now? 11 years now. So you've been her primary parent all along, but he's biologically her parent, and you want to honor that, but it's been difficult. So that really struck me, and I think a lot of the kinship families that we work with have those same things. They have to put their care and time into the child that they're working with, or with their children, but recognizing there's some struggles with their own children, there's some disappointment in what happened with their own children, and there's a lot of conflicting emotions that I know a lot of the parents we work with deal with, and I could see in your story as well.
Yeah, most definitely.
I thought of one additional thing that I wanted to share. I am also an adoptive parent of 6 kids who joined our family through foster care adoption. And our oldest 2 are through kinship. And in Michelle's story and in our story, also the themes of all those changing family relationships, right? Like Michelle said, I didn't really get to be grandma because I had to be mom. And, it changes for everyone. Like aunts and uncles have different roles, the grandparents shift, like it all shifts, and it's kind of, confusing, but everyone takes on a different role. So I don't think we often think about all of those, like all of those relationships that change and it kind of ripples out. So, yeah.
Yeah, one of the things that I love about so many of our panelists is the lived experience. And I don't think I mentioned that I was raised by my great grandmother. And when I was about 8 years old, my mother wanted me to come back and live with her. And I didn't want to leave my grandmother. So sometimes the parents might not want the kids back, but the kids don't want to go back to the parents either. So, yeah. Lisa, do you have another question?
I have a question. Michelle, you said that the support group that you were involved in with Deb was a huge support to you.
Yes.
Could you talk just a little bit more about that?
The Grand Family Group that meets on Mondays with Deb Willett. She's my Mother Teresa. Yes. We all come together. You bring your grandchild with you, and there's someone usually with the kids and the grandparents or whoever, aunt, uncle. We all meet together. Sometimes there's speakers. Sometimes it's just like a vent session. Sometimes, but it's nice. It's everyone's in the same situation more or less, and the kids are around kids in the same situation, and it's a good support group. Yeah.
Great. Kirsten, I have a question for you. So you mentioned you work with a lot of kinship families for permanency. What do their permanency are their permanency decisions different from foster parents? Like, are they less likely to adopt because of family issues? Like, what does it look like for them?
In my experience, I think the kinship families are much more committed, and I don't want to say that in a way that it puts back with the foster parents and how they're committed, but the kinship parents, they can't see the possibility of anyone else taking this child. This is their child. So I see a lot more commitment there, but there's a lot of emotional struggle. But like I said, about half of the families that we work with are kinship parents, and it's really continuing to grow more and more. And kinship parents are not just grandparents, but like you said, aunts, uncles. I've worked with neighbors who've taken in the children from next door. I've worked with the babysitter. There's so many different definitions to the term kinship that there's a lot of different emotions that come with it.
Great, thank you. Rachel, did you want to say anything? Did you want to add anything?
One of the things that we see sometimes in our Wormline questions is that in order to pursue adoption, there has to be a termination of parental rights first. And sometimes kin families are not willing to do that. In a grandparent situation, that means asking the court to terminate their child's right to their children. And so sometimes kin families find other options, either through permanent legal custodianship or custody through the family court, because they don't want to pursue that termination of parental rights and adoption.
Great, thank you. So, Michelle, I think you look like a really, really young grandmother. So, some of the grandmothers that we work with are like in their late 60s, their 70s. So, when you're interacting with other grandparents, how do they kind of navigate the age and sort of the care needs that they might have as, seniors?
Well, I am over 55, so I am
Don't look like it.
No, well, my husband, we're old. I just don't look like I am middle aged. I'm 58. I have no problem saying that. So I am older than what I look. I do realize I look young. They say the same thing you said. I don't look like it.
Right.
Yeah. But I explain fully when I go to school, I am her grandmother. And she used to call me my mom, but she calls me mom now.
Okay. All right. Nice. Jill, do we have any questions for the expert?
Sure, I have another expert question. Many caregivers enter kinship care thinking it will be temporary. What are some legal options they may consider when it becomes to long term? Is that kind of what they already answered?
Well, I can speak to that a little bit more, but I think we talked about it a little bit. But I encourage everyone to get some kind of legal documentation. Sometimes people have just very informal guardianship, but I would encourage people to have some kind of legal force behind their kinship care, whether that's through the family court and getting a custody order, or when families are involved with the child welfare system, there's different paths there. Like we had said before, the decision whether or not to pursue termination of parental rights and adoption is both personal, based on what families are comfortable with, but also there are legal requirements that must be met for TPR, and sometimes those situations aren't clear. So if families are wondering what to do when things move from temporary to permanent, I definitely recommend consulting with an attorney who can learn all about your situation and make recommendations that are going to be right for your situation and your family, and go with that legal guidance there.
Great, thank you. Lisa? I have another question, Michelle. I'm involved with 2 different support groups, and I have found that folks not being connected to others or feeling isolated is one of the biggest issues that they face, and that's why support groups are so important. Having a bigger family, did you find that was easier or harder or just the same as other folks? Like, does your connections to your family help you?
I have a big family.
Right.
Personally,
Right.
like my 6 kids. So I don't feel isolated. Is that what you were saying? But those are my kids. So wait, try to count. 1, 2, 3 of the, my older 3 were already out of the house. So my one son was away out of state in college. So I had my 2 younger ones. Yeah, I was more or less isolated because now I can't go. I can still go to church, and, we're active in our church and we could go there. But the stuff that my husband and I used to be able to do, and now that we couldn't, I was beginning to feel isolated. But again,
and that's kind of what I thought. Yeah, that was kind of my point, is that it doesn't matter because the journey you're going through is so different from what a lot of other folks are going through. So that isolation is still there. And
it's still there. No, it's still there because,
yeah,
you want, those are your kids. I'm not hanging out with my kids all the time. Yeah. Right.
Can I ask it in a slightly different way? Same question, but Michelle, could you say a few things about why the support group is so valuable to you? Yeah.
Okay, so I'm one of those informal ones without the legal document. So it's notarized. It's, I update it often. So with the support group, I was able to, different resources, different things that help with school, to help with different things. So yeah, different little things that pop up, having a large family and kids in college and kids in sports. And then here comes another one that was not expected. Yes, the back to school bag, the little fun things or different things that the group sponsors, or just a different resource, about medical. At first she didn't have medical, I think. So I took her down to the health department, and she got her shots for kindergarten. And then from there, because of where my husband works, and we claimed her, she was able to get on his health insurance. But then, Debbie was telling me about Medicaid, but I opted for my husband's insurance instead. But again, right now I'm at a crossroads because he's going to retire in 2 years, and I don't know how that works. So, yeah, just stuff that comes up is a good resource.
Thank you. Are there any? Well, oh, Candy, are there any?
Jill?
Yeah,
sure. Looking at current systems, what policy or program changes would most help families like Michelle's who are in it for the long haul? For one of the experts.
We work within an imperfect system, right? So I always think there's improvements that we can make. I do think one of the positive things that we've had is the development of Kin Connector and a place where we can send people, at least as a start, to get connected to some resources. I think continuing to develop that program and coming up with even more ways to support our families. Like, we've heard about several different needs and we've heard about things that are working today, and to continue to put resources behind those things that are working and expand them and maybe fill some of those gaps would be helpful. I think one of the questions that we hear on the Warm Line a lot is families having trouble getting connected to an attorney that they can afford and getting that legal support to take things from that like informal guardianship document to maybe getting custody in family court. Getting that advice can be out of reach for some families because they can't afford those fees. So I would love to see a program where kinship families can have access to that good quality legal support in an affordable way.
Tia Maria, I would like to add to that as just as in my experience, both as a caseworker and somebody who now works for Kin Connector, I think that one of the biggest, I guess, changes that could be offered by the system is to allow every kinship family to have the choice to become formal. Because if they are formal, then they have those supports. They have the legal support. They have the financial support. They have the caseworker support. They have the system behind them, and they have an advocate in their corner. Most of the families that we have call into our Warm Line have no idea what formal kinship care even is. And by the time they're calling us, it's too late. And so I truly believe, as somebody who has worked in child welfare for 28 years, that everybody who walks this journey should be offered formal care, whether it's 3 days into their journey or 6 months into their journey. If they feel that they can't do it on their own, they should be able to advocate for formal care.
Yeah. Thank you, Jill. I think that's very helpful. Does the audience have any questions?
About question from online.
Oh, well, okay. The one time I didn't ask Candy. All right, Candy, what's the question?
Such to the experts. How would you recommend, on a legal standpoint, connecting a child's siblings across state lines?
The options there are going to vary based on a number of factors. I am a huge supporter in keeping those biological connections whenever they can. The legalities of how to go about that are kind of complex. But whenever people can maintain those sibling bonds, I think that's super, super important. The parents of the siblings have to be in agreement and willing to work together in order to keep that connection. And when I'm training families, I always speak on the importance of those connections and how not having those connections growing up was really difficult, and how I've worked hard to keep those biological connections for my kiddos who are adopted, even when it's been challenging, because I know how important that is.
Tia Marie, can I ask another question?
Of course.
To piggyback off what Jill was saying, we have spoken to an attorney on and off from senior law about getting rid of the child support mandate on child-only TANF, but it was shot down by the legislature. So I was wondering if either of the experts or anyone had any idea on what could be done about that to encourage them to consider that, because we have so many families that straight up turn TANF down because they are not willing to have the parents sued for child support.
That is not something that I have, personal or professional experience with. Just in general, I would encourage people to speak to their legislators about, any changes that they want to make. I'm not aware. I'm sure that there are specific groups that are, advocating those advances. I don't know if you would have information about who those might be, but yeah, I would suggest reaching out and connecting. And when we
stand together and we communicate, with one voice, we always have a more powerful voice. So
Thank you.
Kirsten, did you have anything? Okay. Jill, do you have any other questions or any questions from the audience?
I have one more question if you have time.
Okay.
How can caregivers balance their own needs for stability with the legal complexes of custody and guardianship?
Is that for Michelle?
That is for a expert.
Oh, it's for an expert. Okay.
Sorry, Michelle.
Well, as we've heard in several of our stories, that could be challenging. Like if you're in and out of custody court and, balancing all that. I think we've heard several people say, focus on the ones that are still kids, right? And put the focus on them and put them first. But it certainly can be stressful. Ongoing, involvement with the court system can be stressful in so many ways. It's emotionally taxing. It's financially expensive sometimes. So I can see how that would really be difficult to balance. Just keeping the focus on what's going to be best for that kid. And hopefully, eventually people can work together as more of a team spirit than that combative, back and forth in court.
One thing that I would like to impress upon families too is the need for their own self-care. It is so important that in order for the child to be stable, the parents have to be stable as well, the kinship parents. So their own self-care, knowing what they need in order to be the best parent possible for these children. So assessing their own self-care needs, the needs of their relationships, the relationship they're in with their spouse, the relationship with their other children, because if they're not taking good care of themselves, they're not going to be a good parent. So maintaining their own stability will then help with stability in other areas.
Great. Okay, so before we wrap up, Michelle, do you have any last thoughts that you would want to share with the kinship caregivers in our audience, or even people who may be thinking about becoming kinship caregivers? What words of advice would you have for them?
Well, like I said in my video, always focus on the child first. Like the parents made choices and the child is innocent. It's going to be rough, but you will get through it.
Great. Thank you.
So our final story, Grammy Jones, grandparent in a parental role, comes from Michelle Jones, known to many as Grammy Jones. She's a grandmother raising her granddaughter, turning everyday life into opportunities for love, growth, and connection. Along the way, she's faced financial challenges and made sacrifices to provide stability for Sienna, reminding us that kinship caregivers must often juggle not only the emotional needs of children, but also financial and legal responsibilities that can be overwhelming. Let's watch her story.
Right away, I could tell that her mom was not getting up in the middle of the night when she was crying. I would get up. I am the caretaker for Sienna Jones, my granddaughter. I've had her since she was 4 months old. My son is her father. Him and his girlfriend, Sienna's mother, were breaking up at the time when she found out she was pregnant. Her mom didn't have any place to live. With Sienna staying with me, at least I knew that she was going to be safe and had somewhere to, call home. So I did go for custody, and the first court hearing, my son or her mom didn't show up. So the judge awarded me full legal and full physical custody.
Love you.
I had just became a supervisor at my job. I didn't have to take care of a child anymore. Well, once I did get custody of Sienna, with all that responsibility, I did have to demote myself and just went back to a caseworker instead of being a supervisor. So some big changes that I had to do, which I never minded because, that's my granddaughter and who else is going to take better care of her than me? And I really just wanted to, help my son and her mom out. I didn't know that, here I am, she's about to be 8 years old, and we're still in the same situation that I still have custody of her. And kindergarten is when Sienna realized that, hey, Grammy, not everybody lives with their grandma. That my mom died like a month after she started kindergarten. And that's when I reached out to the grandfamilies, because Sienna was realizing that she only lives with her grandma, and then my mom died, and then she kept being worried, well, what happens, Granny, if you die? And there she realized that, hey, I'm not alone. I have other people and other children live with their grandparents. And, there's all different kind of reasons why, but, it's all because those grandparents love those kids. Being a grandparent and raising my granddaughter is hard, only because I am single or divorced, and I just now found out I blew the engine to my car, so now I have to get a new car. And just being a single household, I don't know what I'm going to do. I remember Sienna saying, are we gonna be all right? And she saw that her mom was kicked out. And so I tried to reassure her that, no, we won't. And she said, but what if we do? And I finally said, well, Sienna, Uncle Jay, my brother, has a camper. And, we went camping with them once or twice. And so I said, if anything happens and we have to get kicked out of here, we'll go live in Uncle Jay's camper in his front yard. Well, she was excited about that. She then wanted us to get kicked out.
I'm a part of Girl Scouts. I just moved into Brown. My Grammy joined our group with all these adventures, and everyone calls her Grammy now, including me.
The Girl Scouts are a wonderful program that, Sienna loves. She couldn't stop calling me Grammy. The Girl Scouts leader, Miss Kitchen, and she's like, well, let's just make you Grammy Jones for everybody. These kids are all calling me Grammy Jones, and Grammy Jones read me a story, and, they'll go back to their parents. And then when we have the Girl Scout meeting, the parents are like, oh, I wanted to meet Grammy Jones because, my daughter was talking about him. So, which Sienna just loves, because now, she's seeing that I'm actually important. I have her involved in church, and she sings in the cherub choir, and she loves singing.
But I kept it all alone. I kept my feelings.
Actually have now started her dad, not on the child support, but now has stepped up and is giving me a weekly allowance for Sienna. And I'm starting to make him be responsible that, hey, this is your daughter too. The other day I said to Sienna, because, we talk all the time, Sienna never stops talking. And maybe because, she's related to me, I'm not sure. I said to her, Sienna, my dad used to tell me that I have already forgot more than you'll ever know. Which at the time, I just said, oh, okay, my dad's crazy. I hope Sienna is able to tell her children something that her dad said to her, and she remembers it.
Come on, you can do it.
I can only stand.
Yeah, there you go.
Welcome, Grammy Jones and Sienna. Okay, so Michelle's story shows us that kinship care is also about joy, whether through Girl Scouts, church choir, or simply being a steady presence children can count on. At the same time, it reminds us that many kinship families are making real sacrifices, financially, legally, and personally, to give the children they love the security they need. So, Michelle, after seeing your story, what would you want our audience to leave with? Like, what impressions?
Well, I just want to say that I had Sienna since she was four months old, and I used to be a Head Start teacher, and so I knew how important stability, routine, that kind of stuff mattered to a child at that young age. So that's why, she was a little bit older, about a little bit older than a year old when I went for custody. Now, mind you, my son and his girlfriend, they were already off doing whatever they wanted to do. And so I, like the other Michelle, gave up. I was just starting to go on cruises. So I actually took my cruise money to go and get custody of her. And so I am grateful that that's what I did do, because I've had her since. So up until she was 5 years old, she didn't even realize that something was different. She didn't, she was seeing her mom on a regular basis. And, her mom sometimes would get upset when Sienna would say, "Call me mom." But I would always be like, she knows who you are. So don't, let that upset you. It wasn't until Sienna went to kindergarten that, she realized, hey, Grammy, everybody doesn't live with their grandma. And that's when I reached out to Deb and the grand families. And just like the other Michelle said, the grand families is a very good resource, support group, because, like Deb said in the video, that she said, well, she has trauma because she's not living with her mom. And at that point, I honestly did not think she had any kind of trauma, because I had always had her. And I wanted to make sure that she didn't have any trauma, going back with her mom or have something, any kind of situation happen to her. So I just want to say that, I just thank the good Lord that I have her, because as you all have seen today, she's very loving and very confident in herself. And I think that just comes from, knowing that I love her and that I'm going to keep her, and, she's stable.
Okay. So, Sienna, how did you like yourself seeing yourself in that movie?
It was fun.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. So now I'd like our experts to introduce themselves. So if you could tell us who you are, what you do, and how you help kinship families.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. My name is Lisa Barnelli, and I am a senior kinship navigator with PA King Connector. And I help folks by, I think I'm a good listener, and everybody knows how much I love to talk. So the support line and support groups are just what's really important to me, so that people feel heard and connected.
Thank you, Lisa.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're having a great day so far. My name is Troy Dunstan, and I work as the Caregiver Support Program Coordinator for the Department of Aging. And I just want to start out by saying, I don't know if there's dust in here, because, my eyes, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. My eyes are watering, but but with the department, our mission is to serve Pennsylvania's older adults and to support the mission of promoting independence, purpose, and well-being in their lives through advocacy, service, and protection. And one of the ways we do this to support caregivers is through our program. And for people like Grammy Jones, whose wonderful story we heard of love and supporting Princess Sienna, the program provides vital resources and assistance to alleviate the stress associated with caregiving and support the caregiver in their role. The program is for the caregiver. And among the various benefits that are offered through the program, eligible caregivers can receive help with such things as education and training, legal counseling. We heard that a lot, that people have struggles with legal counseling and even family counseling. Also, financial reimbursement of approved caregiving related resources, or I should say expenses, such as respite care, babysitting fees, extracurricular activities. I heard someone mention Also, school supplies. Sometimes kids need school uniforms. So those are things that can also be paid for. Clothing and footwear related items, as well as recreational activities as well. And one other thing, we just finished the summer season. So summer camp fees are also one of those things that could be reimbursed as well. So to learn more about the Pennsylvania Department of Aging's Caregiver Support Program, you can look in your program. There should be a QR code, or you can go to our website, which is www.aging.pa.gov. Thank you.
Thank you, Troy. So Michelle, in your video, you mentioned that, Sienna discovered that a lot of kids aren't raised by their grandmother. So what did you do to reassure her about the strength of your family?
Well, I did, sit down with her and talk to her and let her know that, it's her and I. Like when she was born, I was actually living with my ex-husband, and I was still with him when I went for custody of her. And a few months after that, my mom was in the nursing home, and, Sienna and I talked because, Sienna loved my mom, her G-Ma. And so I decided that I was bringing my mom home from the nursing home while my ex-husband said I wasn't bringing him there. So Sienna and I moved so that we could bring my mom home. So when she went to kindergarten, she had been living with just me, herself, and my mom. And so when I was talking to her about, well, ask your friends if they wouldn't mind living with their grandmother. I said, your friends, they love to go to their grandmother's house on the weekends. You get me every day. And that just made her, love it even more.
Great answer. I love that. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to open it up to the audience. And this is our last chapter, so I'm sure that we're going to have a ton of questions from you guys. Okay, let's see. Alex, what do you have?
I have two questions for our
Awesome.
friends Lisa and Troy. So whoever wants to go first, raise your hand. And, well, thank you, Lisa. The first one is, as kinship navigators, what role do you play in helping relieve caregivers' stress and manage complex systems? For example, how can you help if someone calls the Kin Connector warm line?
Well, I think again, sorry. I'm used to being loud. So. I think it goes back to when I introduced myself, is that folks just want to be heard. That is probably one of the biggest things that we see, or we hear, excuse me, Alex, Jill, and I, they're so overwhelmed, feeling like they're the only people in the world who are going through this, that literally giving someone 30 minutes of your time just to listen and to encourage and is all they need to actually have a good day, maybe even a good week. And it gives them the confidence to access the resources you give them. Hey, here's this phone number, and this is what you have to say. And they'll be like, oh my God, thanks for telling me what to say. That makes it so much easier. So I think just listening, obviously resources are important, but hearing people, I think that's what alleviates the stress the most.
Thank you, Lisa. Troy.
Did you want to speak to that, Troy, or are you ready for the next question?
I think Lisa really covered it really well.
Okay.
I don't want to step on her toes.
So we recently ate lunch, and maybe I'm the only one who's thinking about sandwiches, but Troy, with caregiving, you deal with a lot of people that are sandwiched. They're caring for younger children and their aging parents or other relatives at the same time. So for those aging individuals or people caring for aging individuals, what are some supports available to help them navigate those challenging life transitions?
That's a great question, Alex. And you're right, we do see that, and that seems to be an ever-growing population. So I like to say, every caregiving situation is unique. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to caregiving. So with caregivers who are caring for only an older adult, or caring just for a child, or both, their needs are unique. And so through the caregiver support program through the Department of Aging, we do have resources available to help caregivers of all types. And as you heard, I did mention a few of them. We do have other programs also through the department that can help individuals with, say, housing issues. We can make referrals. We also are care managers at the Area Agency on Aging. We have Irma here from the Dauphin County Area Agency on Aging, so shout out to her. If they cannot help you, they can connect you to other organizations. Benefits counseling is an aspect of our program. It's the philosophy of no wrong door. So if we cannot help you, we can connect you with another partner agency that can help you. So as I mentioned before, handling or helping caregivers to handle their financial responsibilities, as well as respite care, which is very, very important. Caregivers a lot of times don't think about themselves. They're so focused on their child or older adult, their mom or dad or other loved one, and we try to tell them, you need to take care of yourself. So it's like that old saying that you hear when you go on a flight. They tell you, if something happens and the oxygen mask comes down, you have to put your mask on first before helping someone else. And it's just like that with caregiving. You need to make sure that you are strong, that you are able to be in a position to care for your loved one. So it's really important. And as I mentioned before, please reach out to us. I'm all about know us before you need us. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard if we're out at different events and they say, oh, I wish I had known about you when I was caring for my mom or my dad. And we don't like to hear that. We would like for you to know about us so you can come and reach out to us to get that support you need.
Thank you, Troy. Jill, do you have a question?
Sure. I have a question for Grammy Jones. You shared that your son is now beginning to contribute financially. What do you think helped him take that step? Sorry, I'm echoing. That step toward responsibility. Was it maturity? Was it seeing that you were struggling financially?
Well, he never thinks I'm ever struggling financially. I don't know why. But I helped him to get his CDL. And so with that, then he sees that, helping me with an allowance because she is his mini-me. Like and you have all seen her here today. She's a little flamboyant or sassy or likes stuff all the time. So he does see that, my income is not going that far with what she actually wants. And she's in different activities and stuff like that. So he does know that, the soccer or the softball pants, aren't cheap. And, going on the Girl Scouts camping trips for the weekend is not cheap. And, so yeah, finally, thank the good Lord that he's decided to give me an allowance.
Now, Michelle, would you say you're like co-parenting her with him, or is it like how would you describe the relationship?
Well, I think going back to even what Tammy said, he'll sometimes come and stay there, when he's not out on the road. And he thinks, he is her biological father, but and you can hear Sienna laughing because him and I go at it because she lives with me. She knows my rules. He can't come in there and start making up rules because he's their day. Right. So, it's a battle. And I have to let him know, no, you're not going to discipline her like that because she didn't know that was wrong. You know what I mean? Like, no, this is how we do it. And yeah, you can look from the sidelines.
Okay. Thank you. So I want to ask the experts as you watched. Is it okay that I call you Grammy Jones?
Everybody does.
Okay. All right.
I
wanted
did.
to make sure. So I want to ask our experts, when you watch Grammy Jones' video, what kinds of thoughts or reflections did you have, or even any questions that you might have for her?
Well, again, I noticed, and I know this is personal to my heart, that she reached out to Deb Willett, and it just seems like support is just the biggest thing. And when you meet grandparents, aunts, uncles, I mean, I've met a 25-year-old girl who's raising her 3-year-old sibling. I mean, you're just blown away. You are so blown away. And knowing that you can be a small part of supporting someone is just amazing. It's an amazing feeling. And I'm just glad you were able to take advantage of that. And I'm glad that I'm able to connect with the people I do. And I know that it helps folks. It really does. And that just jumped out to me. It really did.
Thanks, Lisa. Sure.
Before I start, if you could just indulge me, can we give a round of applause to the caregivers who have shared their stories here today, like Grammy Jones and everyone? I mean, it's just absolutely powerful hearing personal stories. As I mentioned to a few people at lunch, you can hand out a brochure about a program, but that cannot resonate, I think, as well as when you hear someone's story, when you hear the struggles and the challenges that they've gone through, even the successes and the joys, because that's what life is about. Life is joy and pain, to quote an old Maze song. But my reflections, I think, from Grammy Jones's story and Princess Sienna's story is that, it is very, very sad that you have to hear someone who is climbing up the ladder in their career, moving forward, and having to, because of something that is no fault of their own, having to put their life on hold, which I understand she would do it 1,000 times over, but then it affects her career, like she had to relinquish her supervisory role. And I've heard that a lot, where people have said they either had to quit their jobs or scale back their hours, and of course that's going to cause a financial strain within their family, So I'm hoping that we can find better ways to support caregivers, especially ones who are still working, to be able to do that and also care for their families and not have to choose between one or the other. But I think it's wonderful. Yeah. I just think it's wonderful, and all of the stories have been inspiring. And I just love to hear, like Grammy Jones, when you said that you can see your granddaughter flourishing. And we've heard that a couple of times today. And that's a testament to you, your love, your dedication, your sacrifice. And I just, on behalf of all of us, we just want to thank you. We salute you. And I think all of you here, I know we just got out of the summer season with all the blockbusters, Superman and Fantastic Four, but you are the real caregivers are the real superheroes. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Troy. I do want to just piggyback on your statement about the sacrifices that caregivers often make. I think last week we just had a call from a grandfather who had to quit his job to take care of his grandson. And so, I'm wondering, Grammy Jones, I'm wondering, what could your job have done to accommodate you in caring for Sienna so that you wouldn't have had to turn down that promotion?
Oh, I had already been a supervisor in 2015, and she was born in 2017, and so 4 months later I had already started taking care of her. So here I was, a supervisor, which what supervisors do, babysit at work. And so I was going into work, and then I was picking her up from her mom, who was babysitting her while I was at work. And then I had her after work until I dropped her back off to her mom in the morning. So it just became overwhelming. And at my position as a supervisor, we didn't have alternative work schedule. And so if I demoted myself back to a caseworker, I no longer had to do other people's work when I got to work. I only had to do my own. But that one day a month, I had off, and I just had to do it. And so, yeah, I mean, and then when I actually figured it out, it was like $400 less a month. So it was that one day off that I could just take her to her mom and go to sleep all day. That was $400 worth.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have a question from Deputy Secretary.
Oh, I had a question about, or observation, and Troy, with you being with the Department of Aging, you might answer this or have comment about it. One of the things that I noticed and heard is, first of all, I agree with what you were saying about the superheroes of kin. But they are also at this age in which they're helping their grandkids, and many of them have parents that they're also balancing. And so this sandwich generation that we hear about, hey, I've also got to help my aging parents, is quite real for some folks. And it's heartbreaking because they're also trying to be there as sons and daughters for their parents too. I think that just shows how difficult these situations are. That's partly life, right? But it is a loss. I heard a lot about, hey, I'm not able to be a full grandparent and spoil my kids. That was a theme across. But this also loss is, I can't support my parents the way they need me to or that I'd like to. Right. And I know you're the department, you're not the Department of Aging, but I don't know if you have just say, yep, amen, Laval. That's where we're at.
Thank you, Deputy Secretary Miller. You make some really great points. And then you actually brought up something I didn't think about before. We do have some caregivers that may be in what I would call a Dagwood sandwich of caregiving, where you're caring for your parent, your aging parent, and you're maybe having to navigate the lives of your children, but then your grandchildren too. So that's like a triple threat, if you will. And I think that it's important for us to find a holistic way of supporting those caregivers who are in those unique situations and have those unique challenges. And I wanted to mention that, before, was that statistics show that many caregivers have increased health problems and issues once they begin caregiving. And so that's a very real thing, depression, anxiety, diabetes, high blood pressure, etc. And I wanted to mention that our department, in addition to the caregiver support program, we have other programs that help caregivers who are facing those types of challenges. One is the chronic disease self-management program, which allows caregivers to learn about better ways to care for themselves. For example, if someone is dealing with diabetes, it will help them to, have a better diet, learn how to, take better care of themselves, get rest and things of that nature. We also have programs like the falls prevention programs, like Healthy Steps for Older Adults. So that is a program that is designed to help raise awareness of falls and introduce steps on how to prevent falls. And that could be for that caregiver or for their older adult that they're caring for. And also, I've heard it mentioned several times about the importance of community groups and support groups. It's nothing like being able to be in a room with people who know exactly what you're dealing with, the journey that you're walking, and be able to come together to support one another, encourage one another. That there's power in that, and unity and community. So those are some of the programs that are available. I know some of the area agency on aging offices have either partnered with other entities in the community or they've started their own caregiver support groups. I know of one in Cumberland County where a caregiver who was caring for her husband, he unfortunately passed away. She wanted to give back. So she partners with the AAA and she co-facilitates a caregiver support group. So these are wonderful ways, I believe, to help caregivers, not only those who are dealing with the sandwich or the Dagwood sandwich generation, but all caregivers in general. And sir, I'll give you an amen on what you said.
Tia Marie, can I say something about that?
Of course.
So I feel like I keep hearing about loss and grief from so many people in so many different ways. Whether you lose a child or you have to demote yourself or you have to let go of what your children are doing and care for your grandkids instead. And I think therapy might be a good idea especially for folks who are in that sandwich, because they're all losses, and it doesn't matter if it's not a physical loss, like a death, like you're all experiencing this grief of losing, like Michelle Norman said, her ability to travel with her husband or whatever, or, your retirement, what you think you might do in your retirement. Or I think Roberta said, I can't be the grandmom anymore. Or, there are all these different losses, and that's valid and that's real. And you all need to acknowledge that and say that it's okay to feel that way. And I just think talking to someone or a support group, like we've already mentioned, is just really important. Taking care of yourself and being able to continue successfully in that caregiving role.
Great. Please.
So I do want to mention that because, like I said, Sienna and I was taking care of my mother until she passed away, and she passed away, at home with us. And I did seek counseling for Sienna because that was at the same moment that she was going to kindergarten, and went to the grandfamilies, and I saw how much she liked it. Yes, those grandfamilies were like her, but now she has to grieve the loss of my mother, who was like her playmate. And so we did go to the counseling, and like I said again, thank the good Lord that Sienna, they said that she was doing wonderful. She was talking about it. She was letting out her feelings. And, just to realize that, here's my mom died. I'm trying to get over it. And she's the one helping me get over it. So, yeah, it was that sandwich thing that, yeah, it was powerful. I was thankful that I had her. Because she kept, and anytime she wanted to talk about her, I would say, you know what, I miss Shima too. That's my mom. I miss her. And so we got it through it together.
Thank you.
Did you want to say something? You want to say something? No.
Okay. All right. Well, as we wrap up, Michelle, I want to give you a chance to sort of leave us with some final thoughts, and then I will ask Lisa and Troy for their final thoughts as well.
So I do want to just say that, I am thankful for everything that happened today, and James and Samantha for doing a wonderful job on our video, because we didn't give you much to work with. We were busy going softball practice and choir practice and going to the Girl Scouts. So I try to keep her busy so that, she knows that she's wanted. She knows she's being taken care of. But she does want to sing you guys a song.
All right, let's hear it.
Oh, yes.
This song is from my choir. We did it in kindergarten. It's called Jesus Loves Me. Okay. Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. Little ones to him belong. They are weak, but he is strong. Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. He'll love you too.
Oh, thank you so much.
Good job.
Thank you.
Okay, Lisa, your final thoughts?
So thank you to all the caregivers. We just love you guys so much. The caregivers are my lifeline. I tell you guys all that all the time. I love you guys. But if you need anything, don't ever feel funny to reach out to someone. It doesn't matter who it is. You can call us at PA King Connector. Me and Alex and Jill, we have hour and a half conversations with people sometimes. We're happy to do that. Reach out to your local support group, reach out to, the Office of Aging, whoever it is that you need to reach out to. You're not alone. We love you guys. We respect what you do. And I just thank you for allowing me to experience this journey with you.
Thank you, Lisa. True.
It's doggone dust. I don't know. Gotta do something about that. Anyway, in closing, I would like to thank all of the event sponsors, everyone who has been a part of getting this event together, my fellow Kinship Navigator Advisory Committee members, the statewide Kinship Navigators, and it's just been an honor and a privilege to provide you with information about the Pennsylvania Department of Aging's Caregiver Support Program. I hope it was informative to you and helpful. Also, I want to thank all of the selfless and dedicated caregivers like Grammy Jones and like those in attendance and those who are watching us virtually for answering the call to support your loved ones. And I just, again, you all are superheroes, you rock, and I just want to encourage you to continue to do what you do. And I'll leave you with these words from the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, which I feel are apropos for this special gathering. Everybody can be great because anybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and verb agree to serve. You only need a heart full of grace and a soul generated by love. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay.
There's dust
All right.
in my eye.
Thank you. Okay, we are in the home stretch now. So as we close our summit, we want to leave you with insight from one of the leading voices in kinship care, Dr. Joseph Crumley, family therapist. Dr. Crumley could not be with us here today. We are, of course, heartbroken, but he did prepare a video for us, a recorded message that we want to share with you.
I think it's important to realize that kinship care is different from foster care and adoption. And for me, the most significant difference is how kinship caregivers come into providing kinship care for their children. For a kinship caregiver, it's unplanned, it's in a crisis, it's by default, and without services. By that I mean they're getting a call in the middle of the night asking them to take care of a child without any preparation, without any services, without any warning, or without any training.
There's a lot of sacrifices leading to my freedom in this moment.
We've realized over the years that children have better outcomes living with relatives in kinship care rather than living in non-relative foster care and adoption. One of the things that we know about children in terms of what makes kinship care better is because we know all children, whenever they're removed from their parents, ask the questions, why was I removed? What was wrong with me? What was wrong with my parents? In fact, you can actually help the children deal with those questions about why did my parents keep me, what was wrong with me, what was wrong with them, because the family is there to help answer those questions and to deal with the pain that goes along with those questions. And that you can't get from foster care. With families, you can. Foster care definitely is there, adoption is definitely there for the children, but in terms of those dimensions of hurt and loss, it's 2 dimensions for children. Children staying with family eliminates one of those dimensions and actually helps them cope with that dimension of losing a parent. Long-term benefits have to do with having a sense of those closest to me don't hurt me. Those closest to me love me. I am worth caring for. I have family that cares for me. I have a source and a reference of what I'm going to be like when I grow up. I now know I'm worth being cared for. They'll be able to attach to people and make that attachment with other folks and with their families and their own children when they have their children. And that's what kinship care can do.
Powerful stories of love, loss, resilience, and joy. To all our families, thank you for your courage and your honesty. To our experts and resource partners, thank you for showing up for kinship caregivers every day. And we also want to have a special thanks to the Whitaker Center staff for making this experience so warm and welcoming. Now, on the screen, you'll see a QR code once again, and this time it's for our feedback survey. It's about a 3 to 5 minute survey that we urge you to complete because it will help us with future summits. If you prefer to use a paper and pencil, please let us know. Just raise your hand and one of our navigators will hand you a paper survey for you to complete. So again, please do that before leaving while everything's fresh in your mind. Now, in about a week or 2, the video of the complete summit will be available on our website so you can revisit these stories and share them with people who were unable to attend the event today. Your voice matters, your experience matters. On behalf of PA Kin Connector and the Department of Human Services, Offices of Children, Youth, and Families, we thank you for being a part of this summit. Have safe travels home.